The Wes Penra Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The Second Level of Learning. http://wespenry.com. Interdimensional Manipulation in Present Time. Prophecy Paper Number 1, The Obsession with Fulfilling Prophecy by Wes Penra, Saturday, October 6, 2012, http://wespenry.com, Part 3. 7. The High Council from Sirius B. I believe I've said it before, but there is one source of channeled material that I have stayed connected to for many years. I have listened to many other metaphysical sources and indeed found gems in many of them, and I have used them as sources as well, where applicable. But the ones who have been most consistent in telling us the truth of all the ones I've listened to is Barbara Marciniak's Pleiadian Rebel Group. It's been a great investment for me, and their teachings have many times helped enhancing my own life, like no other source has so far. But, there are indeed others who bring us good, enlightening news as well. A couple of months ago, while I was writing on the first parts of the Level 2 papers, I found another quite interesting source on the internet. Again, it was channeled material, and this group presented themselves as the Assyrian High Council. Oh well, I thought, if these beings are genuine, they are really blunt. So, the Syrians are exposing themselves in the metaphysical realm to psychic channelers, telling us exactly who they are? I was quite curious and dug into the material to see what they had to say, but I didn't expect to find what I actually did find. This group of entities is channeled by Patricia Corey, and her website is http://syrianrevelations.net. When you first pull it up, it looks more like a New Age page with some kind of mysterious gypsy woman with a crystal ball running it. But don't let yourself be fooled just because she is presenting tarot readings and other occult practices. Most researchers into the New World Order and the Illuminati etc. frown upon these kind of practices, treating them as evil, and something only the global elite and other evil or misled people dedicate themselves to. I made the same mistake in the past, when I was new to all this and had just started my Illuminati news website. Now I understand that the concept that is generally shared regarding these practices come from Christian researchers who are also exposing the New World Order. However, they see it from a biblical perspective, or think they do, and the rest of us, who are not Christians, unfortunately bought the idea without understanding where it came from. With that said, astrology, tarot cards, palm readings, crystals, stones and bones and such can have real value when comes to understanding certain concepts. Much of it is not so much the objects themselves as it is the energies put into them. But if people get results from them, no harm done. I haven't had the chance, however, to check out Ms. Corey's website in detail, and the channeled session I am referring to above, I didn't even find on her website to begin with, although it's there, but at bibliotecapeliads.net. I started reading the article, thinking these were the bad guys. However, as I moved on I noticed that these entities had some quite valuable things today, and there were indications that they may be benevolent. One of the indications that they after all were here to help was that they stressed that we humans need to claim our sovereignty and not let anybody else control us. In other words, they had the signature of a helpful group. They reminded me of the Pleiadians in certain terms, having a similar message. Then again, the Pleiadians have Syrian connections as well. Somewhat surprised, I continued reading. Patricia is saying that this particular group of Syrians originates from an ascended Syrian star, Sateus, which is the equivalent to Sirius B. If so, they come from an ascended Sirius B, which in itself is not as peculiar as it may sound, because there are ascended versions of stars as well as planets. They are supposedly not the same beings as Sitchin called the Anunnaki. These ascended beings Corey is channeling were once part of seeding an earlier race of humans, and were also present on Earth in the second cycle of Atlantis, and in Egypt. Instead, they tell us, quite like LPG, that the Anunnaki come from Sirius C. This star was known to the Dogon as Inomye, and said that it, just like Sirius B, orbits Sirius A. Sirius A has still a 3D stellar presence, while Sirius B went through its cycle and became a white dwarf, in which she ascended to what the Sirian High Council, SHC, calls the sixth dimension, which is just a number for us in order to grasp the concept. There is no sixth dimension in universal terms, it's just a label. There are no set boundaries between dimensions, but this is where the Sirian High Council allegedly dwells. Sirius C went through a similar process as Sirius B and became a white dwarf, but it didn't make it all the way to the sixth dimension but landed in the fourth. The Anunnaki, the SHC says, stem from Sirius C, and their planet was slingshot out of orbit when Sirius C became nova. Since then this planet is on a 3,600 years orbit between our star system and Sirius. As the reader can see, there are many different theories as of where the Sirian overlords come from. My most solid sources mention the dog star, Sirius A, as the home star and headquarters of the wolfen/reptilian species which has haunted mankind for almost 500,000 years. They have no information on A.am.E and Sirius C, and this is why I want to leave it a little bit in the open as of whom the Sirius C people are for now. What my best sources say, however, is that Sirius A is definitely the headquarters of the Sirian wolfen/reptilians. The SHC, just like the Pleiadians and other channeled sources of high quality, say that our worst enemy is fear, and that this is exactly what the Sirians who control our world are putting us under, over and over. They even call these controlling forces the false lords of Earth. Interestingly enough, on a grander scale, the one mind of humanity, our mass consciousness, the collective frequency of this soul group, will determine time and place when we will have alien visitors landing on Earth, and whether it will be a hostile or benevolent contact. Of course, ETS have already landed on Earth, but they are talking about on a scale where they will make themselves known. The governments of this world are quite afraid of what is going to happen in this respect, because they know that if the Sirians land en masse, they will overthrow the world governments, just like U2 Shamash said to me. Moreover, the SHC says that the dimensions are bleeding into each other, as we wake up to our multidimensionality and due to cosmic events, and beings from every level are now able to pass through the portals. And here is the kicker, something I rarely hear channeled entities say. Craft and ships are not needed to make the journey, and you know this deep within you. Some are mere holograms, helping you understand the essence of contact. Emphasis in original. What they are saying here is that ETS are traveling in the nano world and don't need spacecraft. Other entities have hinted at this as well through channels, but not as bluntly as this group. They are also mentioning that we are not alone, and there are those who are very eager that we succeed in our quest and that they are always willing to help, but within the boundaries of universal laws, which is more evidence that this may be a benevolent group. They also mention certain Pleiadian and Andromedan groups who are affiliated with them, but still work separately, from what I understand, to help us out, amongst many others. And not only are they willing to help us humans, but every living creature on this planet, which indicates that they are very concerned about the living library. In addition, they say something I was waiting for, which would determine pretty much what kind of group this is. Now is the time when you truly realize that you are the saviors, you are the Earth Light Brigades, and you are succeeding in your missions as light bearers of your sphere, in this pivotal point upon the time-space continuum. This means they are acknowledging our own soul group as being our own saviors, and the forerunners have as their task to spread their light, in form of knowledge, and love, universal love, to their fellow man by simply raising their vibrations. This has, as we have discussed many times, profound effects on other people around. These being also know about the Sirian hollowed-out craft, which is indicated in the following quote. Deflect the comets from your sovereign space, refuse the bearers of dark tidings, stand tall against the winds of change. These are definitely not the same beings who are controlling Earth space, and have been for ages. Although they come from the same star system, basically, they are a different species, who ascended long ago to become interdimensional beings, just like the overlords, but the difference is that the first chose a path of ethics and morals, while the latter did the opposite. Certain metaphysical entities would group them service to others and service to self, STO and STS. Interesting is that both these groups have been involved in genetic engineering and/or manipulation here on Earth in the distant past. By any token, there are beings who are watching us who want us to succeed, and we are free to ask for help when we need to. Help will come, but within the boundaries of universal laws. 8. The cover-up of the results from the technology transfer programs. Most researchers today who are into the UFO and exopolitical field, believe that most ETS travel in spaceships between the stars, with motherships of quite enormous sizes to house a large group of star beings. Therefore, they are looking up in the sky, hoping to see a glimpse of one or two of them. The truth of the matter is that if you look up in the sky often enough, there is a chance you may actually see a few UFOs now and then, and if you are a researcher you can tell your listeners or readers that you have seen one firsthand, and you are therefore sure they do exist. And you wouldn't be wrong, because they do exist. However, the same researcher may state that the UFO he or she saw must have been of extraterrestrial origins, because no known Earth technology can do what this particular UFO did, whatever it was. This is exactly where they go wrong. I would say, yes, they certainly can. People have no idea what humans can build today and have fly across the airways. The technology the powers that be are in control of is no less than jaw-dropping. Hence, it is totally understandable that people who see UFOs believe they are not human crafts. Although, the more advanced UFO researcher knows that the governments of the world are in possession of complicated technology, and that not all UFOs flying in the skies are alien craft, but they think it's both. And like I've said before, again I beg to differ. It is true that the technology often comes from technology transfer programs, TTPs, and that some ETS may use some of the craft themselves when they travel short distances. The vast majority of the UFOs we see in the sky have human origins. To be able to test fly all this new technology, the government needs to come up with a disinformation campaign and a cover-up. This is where the UFO community is very helpful to the PTB. Therefore, the government is paying disinformation agents to put out pictures of UFOs on the internet and in other places to get the UFO community on the hook. Often, the same disinformation agents are actually members of the UFO community themselves and sometimes are the ones in charge of them. After have put photos of the new government craft on the internet, they just say that this is way too advanced to be human craft. Also, when others have seen UFOs and photographed and filmed them and put this evidence on the internet and YouTube, the same agents are verifying that they are alien craft. All with the purpose of steering the researcher away from the fact that they are secret government programs. Then, of course, the government is always covering both sides of the story. They have so-called debunkers employed as well, who debunk everything that has to do with UFOs, saying it is human technology, or just a bird or something. This way the disinformation agents have covered all aspects of the subject, and the general public is utterly confused. The best part, the part the government loves, is when people who are confused of what is what start debating the subject and fight internally. Then they put new disinfo agents in these debates as well and confuse the matter even more. In the meantime, serious UFO researchers continue looking up in the sky, hoping to see another UFO they can report as being of extraterrestrial origin. The same formula is applied to alien abductions. The government is abducting people themselves, to use their own species as guinea pigs in their own absurd experiments, sometimes dressing up like aliens, and sometimes just showing up as humans. Afterwards, the abductee is given an amnesia implant, similar to the type of implant people get between lives, and taken back to where he or she was abducted. There are often layers of false memories implanted as well, so during a hypnosis session, or under regression therapy, it is still hard to figure out what really happened. And even if it's figured out, it doesn't tell the abductee much anyway. The real alien abductions are often metaphysical, and if they are physical, the ETS are mostly using human bodies. My point here is to stress that the fake alien invasion will most probably include so-called alien spaceships, hologramic and third-dimensional in nature, while the real invasion will happen in the nano world, where the ETS don't need to come in spaceships. Most of them will come as souls/avatars, and if they are using 3D bodies, these bodies will for the most part be human, almost impossible to distinguish from real humans, unless they want to show off as terrifying reptilians or greys, or Dracos with wings, just to create an effect. If so, it's easily accomplished with technology, shape-shifting, or genetically manipulated bodies in storage, corresponding with any of the above. A couple of months ago, I got a comment from someone who said she is a member of the Kausa Nostra Vril Society, female membership only. I found it pretty interesting, as she was explaining the way human technology has taken since the days of Nazi Germany. Here follows the comment in its entirety. The Germans had flying discs. One of the wonder weapons, these crafts evolved ever bigger and ever more dangerous. The early ones uses petrol-fueled engines to drive the electrical anti-gravity system. Eventually, they were able to come up with a near-nuclear type of power plant to power the lift and propulsion systems on the larger heavier craft, with the effects of bending and distorting time and matter. The discovery of the Bell device by the Allies also was the power source to the Hanbu craft. A discovery that the Allies made sure was cloaked in secrecy ever since. Both the existence of Hanbu and the Bell have been targeted by disinformation. Whether or not you can accept it, or believe that other races of beings inhabit the cosmos does not negate the fact that they do. Humans have seen them and had contact with them since the beginnings of cave and rock wall art, and records kept on clay tablets or papyrus. This is why German explorers were combing all of ancient Eastern culture resources for any evidence of lost technology. They found numerous examples. The Vimanas are just one example. The Vril Society/Thule Society/DHVSS members all came together under one umbrella. It was a uber metaphysical society looking to discover a new never-before-tried avenue of supernatural achievement. This is where the cult of the Black Sun arose. Consider it something akin to the dark force side of the universe. This doesn't mean it is satanic or demonic. It simply means that there is another force. Just like a black hole is a cosmic force that behaves completely outside of our known laws of physics. There are other forces that most are unaware exist. Currently there are other races of beings that inhabit the earth that are not humans. Some are rather nasty and do not like humans. Others exist in places we don't normally see. Like the far side of the moon. There's enough evidence to support that something once inhabited the subterranean of Mars. They are out there. They take mammals from Earth, and use pieces and parts of them for God only knows what. This includes humans. The human mind is a conduit and it can be opened to otherworldly influences if you are trained for it. The Vril mediums practiced an ancient form of telepathic psychic trance. They connected to the waves of a group of alien telepathics. Thought is energy, and it transcends time and space. Apparently these off-world intelligences were also technologically far ahead of us. Why these entities would share/transmit knowledge with humans is open to debate. There are reasons why the inhabitants of the cosmos are largely quarantined from each other by vast distances that are not easily traveled. There are some societies of other intelligent beings that are not benevolent. Humans themselves are not benevolent. We are warlike, aggressive, destructive, selfish, racist, and also extremely arrogant in our nescience. The highly politicized and propagandized atrociousness of the Nazis pales in comparison to the Christian Crusades, the Inquisition, the Conquistadors, Napoleon, the Marxist Revolution, Pol Pot, or other long-ago conquests by madmen with armies. The Germans wanted to purify the Germanic culture. In every society there are the dead-end links, the undesirables, the troublemakers, the anarchists, criminally insane, the half-breed, and those who poison the well genetically. Those that refuse to leave or get out, have to be dealt with. What the Nazi regime decided it had to do to accomplish its aims is nothing new. The USA wiped out the Native American Indian culture, was that right? No, it wasn't. The USA with socialized healthcare will have death panels, the money mongers will decide who lives, and who dies. It won't be pretty. It'll also depend on who you are, and what your value to society will be. The Nazis wanted to create a 1,000-year Reich. A new order. The USA is the new Holy Roman Empire. The newest attempt towards a 1,000-year realm. We are only 236 years into it. Some of the former German Hahnbuchkraft did survive. Some ended up in Brazil. Some in Russia. Some Antarctica, others in the USA. Some continued to fly well into the 1970s and early 80s. There are one or two that operate off and on out of South America. Most of the earlier types today are no longer operating. The USA has anti-gravity lifting devices. The huge black triangles that are sometimes seen, and the flying VSRRs. Some are pilotless craft controlled via satellite navigations. These vehicles were developed in the 70s and 80s. They are a testing platform. The latest craft are spookily able to cloak into thin air, and are so undetectable that they operate in the daytime. The other flying wonders the US is developing is super hypersonic scramjet craft that can fly near zero gravity, be invisible to any radar, and circumnavigate the globe in mere hours. We are also developing stealth missiles. Stealth submarines are being developed. We cannot as of yet light-year travel time. We can however clip time. The Germans found they could jump in and out of spatial time, with mostly bad results. I am a current member of the Kausa Nostra Vril Society. I also am a theology practitioner. I do not do physic readings for others. I have seen the signposts of the psychic travelers who are still putting out signals. It is truly mind-opening. This explains a lot about what people have seen in the skies over the decades. Although there are people who are sensitive enough to see nano-sized spaceships bleeding through, but these people are rare. There is now enough evidence to understand that the governments have spaceships that can go in and out of the visible spectrum, and therefore being perceived as interdimensional. This whole concept is so very important to understand if we stand in front of an event where not so benevolent ETS are trying to win us over, using holograms and advanced technology to prove that they are real and are coming from outer space in advanced spaceships, when they are nothing but 9. Portals and stargates. I have covered portals and stargates before, both here in Level 2 and in Level I, but there is more to say on this subject, especially when comes to prophecies, alien invasions, and the end times in general. I am the first to admit that although I have gathered quite some information on this subject, I have the feeling there is a lot more to understand on a much higher level that is missing in my own and other people's research. No one, as far as I know, comprehends this subject totally. I hope that one day I will be able to either get the insights, or have someone explain this whole phenomenon to me from a higher perspective. But until then, at least we have information that is valuable and crucial in order to grasp its relative importance. Stargates were very important in the past, not only to enter into a certain location on the planet, but to enter the correct energy grid, and therefore the correct time frame. Our planet is full of them, and if we have a sacred site, we can pretty much take for granted that there is a stargate there which has been used in the past or is used in the present, and even in the future. For example, we have this amazing stone formation at Stonehenge, which was built by giants a long time ago, during the Atlantean era. Aside from being used as a sacred site where rituals were performed by Druids and many other throughout history, it was also used as a stargate for the Sirians, the Pleiadians, and the Arcturians. The stone formations were constructed in such a way that they used light as the key to draw these stellar energies to our planet. Sites like Stonehenge offered the energies of fertility, and many traveled to make love at the site in order to conceive a baby, something that was enhanced by the vortices. Other sites were designed to be broadcast stations, calendars, or as oracles to read the future and expand people's reality. Stonehenge is still a very active place, and although rarely used today, it is still working. Other stargates and portals worth mentioning because they may open, and some of them may already have been opened, are Knossos on Crete, the Great Pyramid, the Acropolis, Delphi, Machu Picchu, Tiahuanaco, Sinai, the Middle East, Mexico, Central and South America, Bermuda, used during the Atlantean era as a main portal, Easter Island, Fuji, Mt. Shasta in California, Lake Titicaca, the Mazca Lines, Uluru, Lapland, northern Sweden, Gotland, Sweden, the Arctic, Antarctica and Tibet, a huge energetic opening. The Tibetans maintained this opening all the way up until the 1950s. Over hundreds of years they have been the guardians of the Stargate, and emissaries for those who came through 16. Many of them came from inner Earth and not particularly from our own third dimension. The Pleiadians tell us that the Tibetans have been working with ETS for ages. Once upon a time the Himalayas was at sea level, yes, many who thought that the movie 2012 was exaggerated when the Himalayas was swept under water may need to think again. Under the mountains of Tibet there were huge veins of gold and caves filled with crystals. Also, many bodies have been preserved. They mummified the dead. Just like the Egyptians did, only the Tibetans used gold as the preservation method. This was something they had inherited from the old Atlantean times, where bodies were preserved with gold if their DNA was still intact at the time of death. This possibility of rejuvenation is being rediscovered and applied today. However, the Tibetans were not so interested in rejuvenating the bodies. Instead, if a person had kept a certain high vibration throughout their lives, at the time just before death, the person was laid in a particular position, and when death came, the Tibetans started preserving the person. Now there are lots of gold statues under the mountains of Tibet, and if a person goes there to visit, they will feel the high vibration in those chambers underground, and it will trigger certain frequencies of consciousness. The point in case is that gold is what allows dimensional doorways to be opened. It anchors portals and brings about transmutation. When gold is stored in great abundance, light portals can be opened and access to other dimensions unfolds. So, now we get another perspective on why star races have been here on Earth, digging for gold, quartz, and precious stones of various kind. Gold and quartz are very important to bring about life, and we humans have been created under great influence of both gold and quartz. What Jarl Vidar of the Thule Order was well aware of when he contacted me in 2009, knowing I am a former musician, to help him open up a certain Stargate, was the secrets of toning. I am sure he has studied a lot of Tibetan philosophy, myths, and history, and he knows that the Tibetans were masters of toning. If you listen to them, each person simultaneously makes a number of tones. One single toner is able to carry many different tones and notes in one single sound. These so-called overtones can open and unlock energy doorways, changing your perceptions. Jarl wanted to figure out which exact overtones opens the Stargate. I did not comply with this, of course, knowing that this would bring a lot of unwanted activity to this planet. However, whether true or not, Jarl stated afterwards on his website that the Stargate is now opened. What is true is that portals have been opened all over the planet. Some are still guarded, while others have let all kinds of star beings in. According to the Wingmakers, the first portal was opened back in 1998. In our line of focus, the Stargate in the Middle East, known as the Sinai Spaceport in Sumerian times, is still the most important Stargate on the whole planet, because it leads directly through a corridor ending up on Peshmetan, the intergalactic highway so crucial for business and trade within the Milky Way galaxy and beyond. Like we've discussed before, it used to be owned and controlled by the Orion Empire and is extremely important for the Queen of the Stars, because it runs directly through the heart of her empire, the Orion's Belt. Earth sits like a plug in the middle of the highway, and now when the Syrian overlords have taken over the stewardship of the planet, they have closed the Stargate and created the Earth grid, which vibrates on a frequency that is slightly off, making us hard to find. The best way to describe it is to get the image that all dimensions and frequencies in the universe are normally in tune with each other, quite like a perfectly tuned instrument with no dissonant overtones. What the Syrians did was to tune the Earth instrument slightly out of tune with the rest of the universe. This makes it very difficult for star beings who are used to a harmonious universe to find this out-of-tune planet. Where should they look? They more or less already had to know the correct coordinates and frequency band to be able to find us. But like I said before, the splitting of the atom and the drop of the atom bombs in the 1930s to 40s told many star beings out there where we are located, good and bad. This also shows us that the Sirians, although they want to make that impression, are not in total control. One of the most serious things with having the Sirians being in control of the main Peshmetan Stargate is that whomever is in control of it is also in control over, and can manipulate time. This is where blank slate technology, BST, or the Beast as it's called as well, comes into the picture. Something I brought up in great detail in level I. BST means that whoever has the technology can create a blank slate and erase all memories of all people on the planet if they so wish. It's been done before, both by Marduk and Lord Enlil, and possibly by other gods as well. Some say that this is exactly what the Sirians want to do here at the end of the cycle, December 2012, so they can start anew in 2013 and call it year one again. I've heard this from Supreme Rockefeller, who told me in private emails, but more importantly from the SAALM group in Pine Gap, Australia. Will they proceed with this technology and use it against us to erase our memories? It's impossible to know exactly what they are planning to do, and there is no use in worrying about it. The Sirians are desperate now and are running out of time, and they know it. We will talk more about that in the paper after the next. Due to time issues, they could use their own dilemma time against us in one way or another, and they might, but I think the best we can do is to start with learning about all the different things on the agenda and go from there. In the last paper we are going to discuss more about our own abilities to change events as well. 10. Last notes on crop circles. There is no doubt that the majority of crop circles are made by interdimensional beings to inform us in one way or another. Some of the informants are benevolent and others not so much. The latter are creating formations that are supposed to be read by their own people, so to speak. They are messages from the different dimensions to the global elite and others who are incarnated here and may not have the same abilities here in the locked-in 3D reality to communicate through the dimensions as the non-physicals do. Then, crop circles is a good communication forum. Other formations are made by beings of a much higher vibration who want to communicate directly to our DNA. People spend too much time trying to interpret the crop circles, believing they need a key or something to be able to interpret the messages from time/space. A great example of this is the two Russian scientists, one of them the first female cosmonaut in space, whom I was talking about in the beginning of this paper. They were basing their doomsday messages on their own channeled material and have interpreted the crop circles. They say on their website that these ETS whom they channel gave them the keys so they could interpret any crop circle and stone formation on the planet and make sense out of them. Their conclusion was that the world will come to an end on December 21, 2012, but two great cataclysms, where billions of people will die, were supposed to happen on September 21 and 22, 2012. As the reader well knows when he/she reads this, those dates have both passed and we are still here, relatively intact. The two female scientists still have their site up, promoting the same dates, interestingly enough. So, in other words, they were totally misled by malevolent ETS and fell right into the trap and are now discredited, exactly per the plan. My point is that the crop formations should not be interpreted literally. If they come from benevolent ETS, their purpose is to increase our awareness and consciousness and raise the frequency on the planet in an attempt to help us out during the nanosecond. They will impact you whether you actually visit them and look at them, or not. They are constructed that way, made by sound, which is the basic frequency of the universe. In the next paper we are exclusively going to discuss the return of the Sirian overlords.